Oh yeah, one bidder on my bed plate. I did a little bit of checking and the bidder is from Australia. I did have one viewer from Australia that showed some interest in a bed plate. So if this is you, I wish you luck. Anyway, let's get into this video.
Hello YouTube and welcome to the Carbon Fiber Copycat channel. A channel where we copy a bunch of things that other people have made out of carbon fiber and then try to use them on stuff. I had an idea. It just came, I was cleaning up the bench. I know it doesn't look like I ever clean, but I was cleaning up the bench and I found this, which is the pump tunnel stuffer, I think you call it. Anyway, I tested this last year and I believe it gave me 2 or 3 miles an hour on my X2. It was the same video where I tested the pump grate. And so yeah, I had that and I thought I could make a few of those out of carbon fiber and see if anybody wants them. And then I realized that I had cut some material off of scrap material from the ends. When I was making the bed plate, I cut these pieces off. I don't know why that was so hard to say. And it turns out that this will fit perfectly over that. So what I am planning on doing, I'm going to lay it up on this piece of glass. I'm going to lay, I think, 2 layers of this. And then I think 1 layer of this stuff just so that it has some actual thickness to it. So it doesn't need to be terribly strong, but I'm going to do, I think, 2 layers of the twill just so that it has a nice surface finish. And then I'll do 1 layer of this carbon fiber stuff, which will make it 1 millimeter thick. And then 2 more layers of this stuff. And that will make it a total of 2 millimeters thick. And that should be plenty thick enough. And yeah, very strong. This is going to be fairly easy and quick to do. And I don't think I'm going to have to use my Infusion epoxy because it's fairly small, straightforward pieces. So I should be able to just use the poly epoxy to do this. So yeah, I'm going to try to set the camera up and film pulling the epoxy through because I think it'll be neat to see it from the back side. Normally you can just see it from the top through the plastic and all the peel ply and infusion mesh and all that stuff. So what I'm going to do is try to get a view of it from the bottom side to see what it looks like. This isn't my idea. I have to admit that I did get this idea from, what's the guy's channel name? It is the Ultralight Aircraft Workshop or Ultralight Workshop. Anyway, he did a bunch of testing with carbon fiber materials. Has some interesting videos. I'll try to remember to leave a link to his channel in the video description. And yeah, anyway, I might decide to make 2 millimeters thick of the that stuff just to give it some extra thickness. I'll have to see what 2 millimeters feels like, but anyway. I'm not sure how well that is showing up on video, but there is just one little spot left here, so I think it's going to work. The resin is all the way through past the break and starting to suck into the chamber. It's not actually coming through the line yet, but it's going to start coming through any minute. I mixed up quite a bit extra epoxy, so I'm actually going to add some coloring to it and put a coat on the flange of my bed plate mold. I've been having some issues with air getting in, and I think it's because there's a little bit of porosity here. I don't know how that happened, but there's pitting in through this area. I could potentially just sand that off, but I don't want to sand all the way through to the glass. When I was infusing the bed plate, I remember telling you guys that I was worried because it was thick. I didn't know if it was actually going to infuse all the way through or if it was just infusing on the top layer. And that's what I basically meant. I don't know if you guys could tell at all, but on the other side of the part, it was moving across in one solid wall. And it was, I think, when I got the second batch of epoxy ready, so you guys might have seen that, me playing with the chamber, the epoxy on the other side was to about here, and still it was, yeah, you could see from this side it definitely was not that far. So
calling to say
all right, folks, it is Friday morning, which is the following day, and I'm going to unpack this. I can see a tiny little bit of air leaked in through the back, but overall it stayed sealed really well. So I'm not worried about how it's going to turn out. Let's take a quick look just for curiosity's sake. Oh yeah, I can actually see that could be a problem. That could be a problem right there. You can really tell where there's no release agent. Down here where there's no release agent, it really doesn't want to come off. Oh, the finish turned out fine. I forgot that I still have the stuff on the back, so I'm going to peel that off now. I just very roughly cut it into shape using an angle grinder. The finish turned out quite good. I'm pretty happy with it. I ended up using scrap materials on this because I wasn't sure if it was going to turn out. I was using the polypoxy resin, and it's not intended for infusion, so I wasn't sure if it was going to actually wet this out with the infusion process. So the back of this might have some rippling to it because so it has 2 layers of 6-ounce cloth, which were scraps. You can actually see a line through here, and that line is where one layer of carbon meets another layer. And the core of this is actually a bunch of scrap pieces that I didn't use on one of my bed plates for the, biaxial. So yeah, anyway, let's peel this off.
That comes off pretty easily once it gets started. I decided to make another tunnel stuffer, and I'm going to make it out of the green cloth so that it goes better with my hull. And because I have some of this green stuff in fairly small pieces and I don't know what I'm going to do with it, I'm going to do a few things different this time compared to last time. I'm going to be very careful to keep the surface clean. I'm going to use the actual Infusion epoxy that I bought because I have more coming this week. And I'm also going to weigh the material so I have somewhat of an idea of how much epoxy I'm going to need to use. So let's set that on there. 126 grams. Who knows if this is going to be a video? What a mess of footage. I've done a few live streams lately, so some of this footage is in live stream recordings. So I packaged this up on a live stream and did the pull down of the vacuum, and I've let it sit overnight, and I just checked the vacuum and it has a small leak somewhere. It could be just the lid of the pot. It's definitely not a big leak. It's still at 24.5 inches of mercury, and it was at 25.5, and that was at midnight last night, and it is currently 11:30 the next day. So I'm going to go ahead and infuse this. Okay, so on the top side of the part, we've got the epoxy to here. It's reached just the edge of the resin break on one spot and a little bit slower through here. Underneath, I'm going to show you guys, I'm not sure how this is going to turn up on camera because there are two lights underneath there. I'm guessing you can't see that very well, but the line of epoxy is right along here. All right, the rate is staying about the same, so I'm happy with that. We'll recheck temperatures here. 106 in the middle, 94 out at that side, 84 out at this side. Why would it be only 84 when the light bulb is... Yeah, anyway. No matter. The epoxy is to about here on the bottom now. So it is making its way through. The epoxy in the pot or cup is still about... What is that noise? Oh shit. Something bad is happening. I got a leak somewhere, folks. I've got a major amount of air leaking in. Fortunately, I can hear it. Oh, it's right here. This is definitely not good. I have to be really careful to get this sealed up. This is a bad time for this to happen. This might be a horrible idea, but I'm impatient, so I'm going to do it anyway. This is going into the oven at a fairly low temperature. (53 Celsius, 127 Fahrenheit). So I'll keep a close eye on this. I'm going to start bagging this up, and maybe I'll actually make two things today. All right, YouTube, I swear that I filmed taking this out of the bag and separating it from the mold, and a little bit of the process of actually cutting it into shape using my template, but I can't find any of that footage on any of my 3 memory cards, so I'm just going to have to do a little bit of talking about it.
It went quite well. The cutting out of it went extremely well because the template makes it so that I can scribe a line and I don't have to guess at where I'm cutting it. It makes it a lot quicker. Removing it from the mold was a bit tricky because I didn't use enough release agent, and it actually stuck down to the piece of glass well enough that it removed some of the green coloring from the green filament, I guess you'd call it, that runs through the weave. So this carbon fiber has green plastic string kind of stuff that runs through the weave of the carbon. That's where that green color comes from. And it actually stuck well enough to the glass that the green coloring stayed on the glass. So yeah, that was my fault. I got a bit cocky and thought that because it was glass, I would get away with it. I probably would have got away with it if I didn't put it in the oven, but putting stuff in the oven, I've noticed over the past few pieces that I've built, when you put it in the oven, I don't know if the heat makes it so thin, the viscosity of it so thin that it gets into all the nooks and crannies. Whatever the case, heating it definitely makes it bond way better. So I was able to still produce a usable part. This is going to be going on my ski. I'm quite pleased with it. And I have shipped one of these off to the Jet Ski Brothers and a bed plate as well. And they did the unboxing of that yesterday. Josh did an unboxing and a live stream yesterday. Next up, I'm going to be building a ride plate. I've actually built the ride plate and I just have to edit the video. Some quite unexpected stuff happened even after the part was built, so you guys will have to see that. But yeah, as a kind of a teaser or spoiler as to what happened, well, there's my bed plate mold, and there's my bed plate mold. So I will leave it up to you guys to use your imagination, and the next video will probably be explaining that situation. So other than playing with fiberglass, I have been doing some work on the SXR 800 to try to get it ready to go out for its first test ride. I got the intake manifold for it, installed it, fired it up. I did all that stuff off camera to try to do that quickly. And then once I got it running, before I took it out on the water, I wanted to make sure that the charging system was working properly. So I checked it and it actually wasn't charging at all. So I have a couple of clips that I'll probably insert into the next video of some stuff that I did with the charging system on this. And I have a few clips from a car that I was working on. Probably boring for most of you, but yeah, we'll see what happens in the next video. Anyway, that is going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I made some of these things, the tunnel stuffers, and goes in here like this. I have fit the pump on. The pump is right here. So I fit the pump on and made sure that everything lined up. I did that on the live show.